Today we're going to discuss one of the most dangerous types of emails. Phishing is the fraudulent practice of sending emails that seem to be from reputable companies in order to trick you into revealing your personal information, such as passwords or credit card numbers. Don't take the bait. Hi, I'm Delia Hubbard, Digital Literacy Educator for Cornell Cooperative Extension of Rensselaer County. And in this video, I'll show you real phishing emails that I've received so we can study them and learn how to spot those fraudulent messages. Once you can recognize a phish, you can protect yourself and your personal information. There are a few common red flag features we'll see in the example phish emails. First, the email will have a sense of urgency to it in order to try to get you to panic into making a mistake and revealing your info. It's usually impersonal, addressed to the user or even the first portion of your email address instead of your actual name. It may contain an unsolicited attachment, which is one you didn't ask to receive or weren't expecting. It will encourage you to follow a link, perhaps to verify information on your account, dispute a charge, or keep your account open. It'll use a different domain name than you would expect, but it may be very similar to a real domain name to try to trick you into making a crucial mistake. It contains links that direct you to unexpected locations, and it may contain bad grammar and spelling errors. Now, let's look at some actual phishing emails to learn how to spot these red flags. Example number 1 is the PayPal phish. PayPal is an online service where you can pay for purchases from websites or send money to family and friends. Your PayPal account is connected to your bank account, credit, or debit card, so tricking you into revealing your PayPal login credentials can be very profitable for criminals. Here are 3 emails I received relating to PayPal. 2 of these are real receipts for payments I made with PayPal, and 1 is a phish. Our first technique to spot a phish is to get to know what real emails should look like. I've cut off the edge of this screenshot here to protect my own privacy, but you can see that the real PayPal receipt emails have the subject receipt for your payment to, and then the name of the company or person I sent the money to. I received these emails immediately after sending money, so I expect to receive it. The phish has the subject you sent a payment. The fact that it's different from what you usually receive should be a hint that this might not be a real email. Notice how it's colored yellow to grab your attention, and it's flagged with high importance and for follow-up. Lastly, the domain name on the email address is different, but similar to the actual PayPal receipts. Here's why this phish works. Perhaps you have a PayPal account and received this email. You feel a bit of a panic or excitement as you think to yourself, I didn't send any money today, and you weren't expecting to receive a receipt. Of course, you open the email to see what this message is all about. The criminal is taking advantage of your worry. They're smart and crafty, exaggerating the sense of urgency with the high importance flags and the yellow color. Let's take a closer look at the actual email. We mentioned it was sent with high importance and follow-up flags, but note the greeting, Hello Delia M. Hubbard. This greeting is impersonal, using the first part of my email address. Genuine PayPal emails always use my full name. Looking at the rest of the message, it looks very realistic with a transaction ID number and a date that closely match what the real PayPal email looks like. The difference here is at the bottom. We're being asked to respond with yes, confirm, or no, it wasn't me. Real PayPal emails never offer this option. This is a fantastic example of a phishing email because it doesn't have any grammar or spelling errors and looks so very close to a real PayPal email. The criminals are counting on you to hurry to fix the issue, so you would be tempted to click the It Wasn't Me button and report the alleged fraud. If you click the button, you'll be taken to a website screen where you can report the transaction. You'll be asked to log in with your PayPal credentials and perhaps enter a transaction number or some other information that looks legitimate for processing a fraud complaint. After you submit your complaint, you'll get a confirmation message that says they're going to review the transaction and you'll feel good about having avoided disaster. Unfortunately, you haven't avoided disaster at all. The website you will have visited will be a really convincing fake that probably also looks very much like the real PayPal website. When you logged in, the criminal was freely given the correct login and password to the real PayPal account. They won't be fixing anything right away. In fact, they'll probably immediately log into your account and change your password, so you end up locked out of the account while they access and deplete your funds. Don't panic. There are clues that this is a phish, and you can avoid this disaster. Let's look at that email again. Our second tip for spotting a phish is to hover over all of the links in the email before taking any action. As I mentioned earlier, this message is a very convincing phish. However, when you hover or hold your mouse pointer over the links in the message and take a look here at the bottom of the screen, you'll see where the link will take you before actually clicking on it. Most of these links appear to direct you to an actual PayPal website location. It's ironic and a bit extra bold that they even include a link for information on how to spot a phishing message in their phish email. This helps reinforce the fake and make you feel as though the email is reputable. Returning to the blue buttons, I'm not going to click on, but I'm going to hover my mouse pointer over the buttons and look to the bottom of the screen. Notice that these buttons don't lead me to PayPal at all, but rather will send a message to an email address. Mixing in reliable links with fraudulent ones is a powerful technique used by criminals. Let's review. This email uses importance flags and color to create a sense of urgency. It comes from an email domain that doesn't match what I would expect. It doesn't greet me with my actual username. It has links in it that direct me to unexpected locations, and it doesn't look like the other genuine PayPal emails I've received. We can safely say that this email is a phish. Now what do? We simply delete the email and forget it. But if the email has you really unsettled, here are some additional steps you can take. Open a web browser and go to paypal.com or check your PayPal account from your mobile app. Never go to PayPal through any of the links in the suspicious email. Check your recent transactions and you'll likely see that there was no transaction made that you weren't already aware of. If there are any transactions you didn't initiate, file a dispute with the Resolution Center. You can also report the suspicious email to PayPal's security team. Forward the message to phishing@paypal.com and then delete it. Example number 2 is the unauthorized login phish. Here on the screen I have 2 examples of supposed unauthorized login attempt notifications. One is from Microsoft and one is from Facebook. These both happen to be flagged with high importance and are shaded yellow as well, like the PayPal example. Our third tip to help you avoid falling for a phish is to know your account credentials. I do have a Microsoft account and a Facebook account, but I use a different email address to log into those accounts. Neither my Facebook nor Microsoft account is associated with this particular email address where I receive the messages. Looking closer at the Microsoft email, again, it's flagged with high importance, and to follow up, we have a fairly believable from email address. It does end in Microsoft.com after all. Scrolling down, there are some very authentic looking details about an unusual login, and there's only one tiny grammatical error here, a comma followed by a capitalized if. Using our hover technique like before, I can hover my mouse over the blue button and see that it leads to an unexpected Gmail address rather than an official Microsoft web location. Further, taking a look at the click here link by hovering shows that it too leads to an unexpected location. I want to add that if you're savvy and know how to do an IP address search, The IP address presented results do say that this computer is located in Moscow. It's a great detail included by the phisher to add the appearance of authenticity to this message. Here's why this phish works. You receive the email and you do have an account at that site, be it Microsoft, Facebook, Netflix, Amazon, your bank, or any other website. You feel panic because you didn't log in from whatever city or at whatever time is indicated, and you worry that you've been hacked, and so you open this message. In your hurry to fix the issue, you're tempted to click and report the unauthorized login. But like before, if you fall for this phish, the website you will visit will be a really convincing fake that probably also looks very much like a real website. And you'll log in and give the criminal your real login information. They will then log into your account and change your password and proceed to deplete your funds, order goods, or do other nefarious acts with your credentials. Now that we know that this message is a phish, what do? Again, we simply delete the email and forget it. Let's look closer at the Facebook email. I receive several similar versions of this particular phish each week. In the subject line, there is a generic name that is not my Facebook user ID. It is also flagged with high importance and a follow-up. There's a semi-believable from address here. Scrolling down, we have another impersonal greeting, but also a broken picture file. And then we're provided with details of this alleged unusual sign-in event. When I hover over the buttons, I can see the unexpected link address here at the bottom of the screen. And note that they also used mixed links here in this phish. The Learn More link looks to be a valid Facebook web address, but the unsubscribe button goes to the same questionable location as the report button. Here is another similar version of this Facebook phish, where they include a date and timestamp in addition to the device used. Going back to tip number 1, knowing what a real security breach notification email looks like would really help in this situation. If you have two-factor authentication enabled on your Facebook security settings, you will receive a notification if someone attempts to log into your Facebook account. And this leads us to tip number 4. Consider how likely it is that there was a breach. In the 5 years since I've personally started using two-factor authentication, I've only received one genuine unauthorized login attempt notification, and it looks very different than these phish versions. As a point of information for you, if you are using two-factor authentication, in addition to the email alert, you also receive a notification directly in the Facebook app and a text message with the email all simultaneously at the same time. So if you're only receiving an email and no other notifications, it's highly likely a phish attempt. Now that we know the Facebook messages are phish, what do? Well, again, we simply delete the email and forget it. But if you're particularly unsettled by this message, you can also open a separate web browser or your Facebook app on your mobile device and go to your account settings. Remember, do not follow any links from the original suspicious email. Listed under the Security Settings section, you can review a list of all devices where your account is signed in from. If you see an unrecognized device, you can log it out from your settings, and then you should immediately change your password. Our last phishing example is the Nigerian prince scam. These emails often originate from a foreign country where a prince or a duke or some other nobility contacts you stating that they have a vast amount of money for you. All that is required from you is a small fee to initiate the wire transfer. You will provide the fee, but will never receive the vast amounts of money awaiting you. These types of phish emails are considered the easiest to spot, as they are usually full of grammar and spelling mistakes. And when we practice tip number 4, considering the likelihood, it's easy to see that the message is a scam. Despite being easier to spot, these messages still faked Americans out of over $700,000 in 2019. Here's why this phish works. Transferring funds through the internet is now easier than ever before. And the message has transformed as time has gone on. Many now present themselves as an investment or business opportunity, and the sense of urgency to get in on the ground floor before the opportunity passes can lead you to act before you think it through. This is made more complicated because it is often sent as part of a viral deployment, so instead of a foreign dignitary, it can appear to come from someone you know personally. Here's an actual example from my email inbox. Let's look for clues that this is a phish. Notice right away the terrible grammar mistakes and unusual capitalization and punctuation use throughout the body of the message. The message itself is from one email, but directs you to contact another one. If Mr. David Morris really worked for the United Nations Inspection Agency, he would likely have a United Nations-based email. If you search online, there are loads more detailed versions of this exact email that ask for even more personal information or even your banking info. We're sure this is a phish, so what do? Delete, delete, delete it. If you are particularly intrigued by this message, you can employ tip number 5. Research and fact-check the message contents. Open a separate web browser. Remember, do not follow any links in the email. And search for the named agency or the prince mentioned. In our case, you'll find page after page after page describing this exact phish. In fact, the United Nations Inspection Agency isn't even a real organization. You might also visit snopes.com and search for key terms in your email. It will reveal scams like ours, and is also a great resource for fact-checking articles that seem a little bit off. Let's do a final review. Phish emails contain a false sense of urgency. Impersonal greetings. They encourage you to follow a link. They use a different yet similar domain to a real website. They contain links that direct you to unexpected locations and often have bad grammar and spelling errors. What can you do to spot a phish? Know what to expect by comparing with real messages you have received. Hover over all the links in the message before acting. Know your credentials for website logins. Consider the likelihood that this is a real message. And research and fact-check email contents. By being vigilant and cautious, you can avoid falling for these dangerous schemes. If you would like a handy printable tip sheet to help you remember these techniques, look for a download link in the video description. If you work with groups in Rensselaer County and would like a more formal presentation of the content in this video, reach out to our digital literacy educator by phone or through our website.